Hello again, gamers. Welcome back for another episode of Grokking Battletech. I'm the board game captain, and today I'm going to be telling you how to grok the Assassin. So the Assassin mech is a medium mech that behaves a lot like a light mech. It moves very fast, it jumps, and it acts like a scout. In fact, in the new record sheets that they have released from Catalyst, they classify both of the original Succession War era versions of the Assassin as scouts, even though it is a middle mech, because as a medium weight mech, it really does act very much like a light scout mech. So we're going to dive into all the variants. We're going to talk about some things I suggest for using this mech. We're going to talk about some custom variants, and we're going to talk about a suggested lance and a suggested mech warrior for this mech. So to start with, let's start with the basic version of the Assassin. So the basic version of the Assassin is the ASN-21. Now the ASN-21 is a 40-ton mech. It has a running speed of 11, a walking speed of 7, and a jumping speed of 7. This thing is fast. This thing is maneuverable. It moves like a light mech, like a light, fast jumping mech. It's got 12 armor on the center torso, 10 on either side torso, 8 on either arm, and 6 on either leg, with 8 armor on the head. Rear armor is pretty weak. It's got 4 in the center torso, 2 on each side torso. So this is better armored than a normal light scout mech, but not really that much more. Then we are armed with an LRM-5, an SRM-2, and a medium laser. And this is a big part of why it's also a scout mech, because generally speaking, if you're not familiar, scout mechs are usually light mechs that are lightly armed, lightly armored, and are really fast and are good for spotting for indirect fire and things like that, but not much else. Otherwise, their weapons are really just kind of harassing weapons. And you have this here. You have an LRM-5. It's only long-range option. That on an average turn will do 3 points of damage, because not all 5 of those missiles are going to actually hit. And even when they do, 5 damage is also still not that great. But often won't be doing 5 damage. Then you have an SRM-2 and a medium laser, which when you're firing those, you're going to be within the minimum range of the LRM-5. So if you're still firing that, it's going to have a harder time hitting. And the medium laser is going to do 5 damage, and the SRM-2 will do 2 or 4 damage, depending on how many of those 2 missiles hit their targets. So this is a weapon spread that is meant for harassing. It's not meant for doing a lot of damage. Again, this is a mech that could spot for, a lot of missile boats, indirect fire mechs, and that's fine. That's kind of what it's for. The problem is that the main thought process they have behind the Assassin here is they wanted to up-armor a scout mech that could take more than 1 hit, if you will. And sure, I mean, this thing could take, depending on, how lucky you are in regard to taking crits, this thing could take a hit from a autocannon 10 or a PPC in any front armor location without completely blowing that body part off. It could take 1 hit in any of those locations without completely blowing it off, unless you get unlucky on the crits, because it is going to go through the crits on the arms and legs and head. Of course, that would go through the crits on the head with any mech, because you can't have more than 9 armor on the head. But you get what I'm saying. You get the idea I'm putting forth here. That said, that's not really that great. Really big weapons like an autocannon 20 or a Gauss rifle in later time periods are still going to rip through this thing. And generally speaking, if it takes a second hit in the same location from a PPC or an autocannon 10, this thing is toast. I mean, even if it takes a second hit from a medium laser in that area, it's going to be going in and closing crits. And crits could be devastating. I mean, you're relying on having good dice rolls for this armor to actually be worthwhile. Generally speaking, the increased battle value, this thing goes up to about 749 battle value for this. I would rather have a lower battle value mech that had less armor and was as fast with his little armament. It's why generally the Assassin ASN-21 is fairly low regarded. Now, the second version of the Assassin is the ASN-101. So this one, while the first version was created during the Star League era, this is a upgrade for the Succession War era, if you will, quote-unquote upgrade. So the first thing that really stinks about this is they reduced its jump speed to be able to fit more weapons on. Now, if you're going to want to fit more weapons on this, I am with you. I am with trying to get more weapons on this thing because Again, it's an overcosted scout. But dropping the jump speed down to a 5 really also takes away one of its greatest advantages, which is flying at high speed to jump in behind people and also make it really hard to hit you. I don't think that was where you should have sort of, cut costs so much to be able to fit more stuff on, cut weight, if you will, to fit more things on. But so now it has a small laser, a LRM-5, an SRM-2, a medium laser, and 2 more small lasers. So the small lasers are in the head, the right leg, and the left leg. So yeah, so for dropping 2 speed on the jumps, it added in 3 small lasers to what it already had. This is better, but not great, and also the lower jump speed is really a problem. Plus, they even cut a little bit of armor from this one. Its center torso is only 11, sides are 9, legs are 5, arms are 5. So there's a couple places where we skimped on armor here, which, did away with the one original purpose of why they even made the assassin. So generally speaking, I would say with the 2 kind of Succession War era assassins, not generally impressed. Most people aren't, but yeah, neither am I. Okay, so let's move on to some later era mechs. So in the Clan Invasion, we have the ASN-23. So it's got the LRM-5 given with an Artemis 4 fire control system. Why? Why would you do this? Why would you waste the weight of an Artemis 4 on an LRM-5? It's only got 5 missiles. You're making it more likely for more of those 5 missiles to hit. Ooh, LRM-5s make my enemies shake in their boots. No, they don't. And a medium pulse laser. The medium pulse laser is nice, but again, we're back to the same general problem from the original Assassin. Really not enough firepower on this thing. A little bit better armor. It's got 10 on the side torsos. But yeah, generally speaking, still many of the same problems we had with older versions of Assassins. So next we have the ASN-30. Now the ASN-30, again, 7.11.7, just like most of the Assassins. You upgrade the one gun to an LBX autocannon, but it's only an LB5X autocannon. And an ER medium laser. Again, it's better than the original Assassin, but not by much. And again, a little bit better armor. We've got 14 on the center torso, 11 to the side torsos, 9 for the arms, and really good 15 for the legs. This also, it's got a significant increase in the armor on the rear torso areas. We've got 4 on each side torso, and we've got 4 in the center torso. Still not great. I mean, let's be honest. It's going to hold up to getting hit a little bit better, but it can't really return fire. Most of the Assassins have this problem. They're just not very good mechs, unfortunately. Next, we have the ASN-99. So this one has a tag. It has an SRM-2 in the right torso, a Guardian ECM suite to help protect it from some of those missile volleys, an SRM-2 in the left torso, a light PPC, and a sword. This is one of the better versions. I like this one. It's got a much wider variety of weapons that focus more in on kind of shorter range brawling, which is good. I don't think you need to mix long range and short range with this thing. You're going to want to get fairly close to spot for other mechs anyway. The ASN-99 also, to save on weight, it's got, extra light fusion engines and some other things to help keep the weight down. It's how it was able to fit in all these extra weapons and stuff. Upgrades in tech really did help a lot of the older ailing mechs. And it helped to fit more weapon systems in. In addition, in a similar form, we have the Assassin Servitor, who also, again, takes advantage of an extra light fusion engine to be able to maintain that 7.11.7 speed, up the armor even more, has now a very respectable 16 armor in the center torso, 14 in each side torso, 11 on the arms, and 19 on the legs. This is one where I actually feel like this is, if you really wanted to make a super durable scout, this is a fairly durable scout. You actually are getting armor into levels that can take a hit or two before they're really getting into the internal structures. Then we have, again, 2 SRM-2s. We've got a small laser. We have a medium X pulse laser, a small vibroblade, and 2 small X pulse lasers. Not a bad armament. You get a bunch of small weapons on here. This is probably one of my favorite versions of the Assassin. So now the thing is this, though, is by the time you get up to this point, because this Assassin doesn't come out till the Civil War period, By the time you get to this point, these advances in technology have been applied to many other models of mechs too, and a lot of them do it better, and they are still head and shoulders above even this best version of the Assassin. This version of the Assassin would have been great if you could have done it back in the Succession War time period, but in the Civil War time period, yeah, it's kind of ailing. Generally, the Assassin is not seen as all that great. That we do have a couple of custom variants that are canon that I do want to talk about. There's the ASN 30, which is the Assassin Alice. It was a custom assassin created by the Lyran mech warrior Alice Humpter of the 24th Lyran Guard. Now, this one is actually really decent, and this is another FedCom Civil War era mech. It's equipped with 7.5 tons of ferrofibrous armor. It has 4 extended range medium lasers, 2 mounted in the torso, and a pair in the right arm. And then also it has a targeting computer and a C3 slave computer, a Beagle active probe, and double heat sinks. Now, this kind of makes it on par with some of the variants of, say, the Wolfhound in that time period, but it can jump. Generally speaking, the jump is the one thing that gives it an edge over Wolfhounds. Generally, for its skirmishing capabilities, I'd rather have a Wolfhound, but for being able to jump behind people and unload with these things, this is a really cool custom variant. Generally speaking, as you can tell, I'm not all that wowed by most of the versions of the Assassin, and most people aren't. They're generally fairly underwhelming. That custom variant of the Assassin Alice is probably the best version out there, and it's a custom variant. Again, you could make a mech using that custom variant, and that would be fine. But I've decided I want to make my own version of the other custom, which was the Assassin Servitor. I want to make a version of that. So for my custom variant, I want to make kind of a version of the Servitor, but one that doesn't use all the advanced rules. So I'm going to be doing one that kind of does weapons and equipment that don't use the advanced rules. But I do need to use some of the later tech to be able to save on weight so I can fit in some better weapons and armament in this thing. So my version of the Assassin is one that was redesigned by my own mech design firm, KIWF, of course named after the first letters of the 4 founders of this particular mech design firm, but affectionately nicknamed Kill It With Fire by fans of this mech redesign firm. Now, they took the old school Assassin and they redesigned it, and this is something that you could really do basically once you get to the clan invasion time period, because you're going to add in endo steel, mainly to cut weight, because you do need to cut weight. But nothing else really. Everything else is actually Succession War era tech, because I wanted to keep it fairly simple. I wanted to keep it as something that could easily be redone as long as you could be redone in the clan invasion time period and easily manufactured, not too expensively. So I have what I have dubbed the Assassin ASN 30-KIWF. So again, I added in the endo steel to bring down the cost. I kept the movement of the 7.11.7 because I think that is one of the best parts of the Assassin. I've upped the armor a little bit though. The armor was definitely lagging. I wanted to get a little bit better armor. So the head is still an 8. I've got an 11 on each side torso, a 14 on the center torso, 15 on each leg, 9 on each arm, 4 on each rear torso space, center and side. So its armor is a little bit better so that it can actually take a hit a little bit better. However, I've removed all the weapons, and with that save space, I decided that, in my opinion, the Assassin should really be more of a specialized mech. It should really be less of a generalist. Being a generalist doesn't really help it very much. So what I did was I focused in on a single weapon type, and that is small lasers. It can be, so with all these small lasers, it can be the sort of mech that runs in and jumps behind the enemy and just unloads the small lasers, peeling off their rear armor. And that's what it's for. Hopefully, giving that 2-prong assault feel, making your opponent worry about this thing in the rear, but also not wanting to turn around to deal with it, because then they're going to have to deal with the big guns of the much bigger mechs coming up the field towards them. They don't want to get hit with an autocannon 20 in the rear, so they're not going to want to turn around. So what I gave it was it has 6 small lasers in the right arm. I wanted to still justify it not having a hand because I wanted it to still look the same. So I loaded it up with small lasers and gave it a reason to not have the hand actuator there. I gave it 5 small lasers in the left arm, 4 small lasers in the right torso, 4 small lasers in the left torso, and 1 small laser in the head. Now, with this mech, the idea is run fast, jump far, and just wait for that opportunity where you can jump in behind someone and peel off their rear armor. Now, keep in mind, we are talking about 20 small lasers. 20. Now, for those of you counting at home, that's a possible 60 damage output, spread all over the place. But if you do it in the rear armor, those rear armors of a lot of mechs, especially if you jump in behind, a medium or light mech, you could really peel that armor off, especially if you jump in at a time where you're very likely to hit the target. This could be absolutely devastating. That's a lot of damage. It's going to be a lot of dice rolls, but it could be really, really cool. And to round out the loadout, I also put in 10 double heat sinks, since we are talking about a redesigned mech for the clan invasion period, and since double heat sinks were available, you're gonna need all that extra heat consumption for all of those lasers. Okay, so next I want to talk about what pilot I would recommend specifically for this variant, because actually I like this variant that I have created better than any of the other variants. So this pilot is a pilot that would use when you are using mech pilots, but only doing cost 2 mech pilots. It is a good one to put on here. If doing higher cost mech pilots, you might want to put it a pilot with better abilities on a much heavier mech in your lance. But this is an occasion where you might actually be like, you know what, I can afford, it's only a 2 cost pilot, I can afford to take this one and put it on my assassin rather than my assault mech, whatever that might be. And that is a Yami Yasin. Now, a Yami Yasin is a mech that is normally in a Phoenix Hawk, but in this case, we're going to mount them in this custom assassin. So they have a gunnery of 3 and a piloting of 3, which is really pretty decent. Nothing too super amazing, but definitely really, really quite decent. Going to make them very likely to succeed at roles in both piloting and gunnery. And they have a single ability, which is Jumping Jack. And this is so perfect for the assassin. It says reduce the attacker movement modifier from +3 difficulty to +1 after firing your jump jets. So this is really, really great, especially because what you're going to want to do is jump in right behind an enemy mech and unload on them. This really helps you to hit your target. Okay, and finally I'd like to talk about a recommended lance. Now I decided to do a clan invasion but 5,000 battle value lance. Normally when I do clan invasion time period lances, I do 6,000 battle value, but I decided to do a really cool theme to this one. The theme is that this is a early clan invasion period redesign, while the rest of the mechs in this lance are still Succession War era mechs. So because of that, I reduced the battle value to 5,000 battle value, and this is the only one mech in this lance actually using clan invasion time period tech. Everything else is a Succession War era mech. This is basically to test out this mech's capabilities, but I did want to give it, some good covering fire and such. So again, we have, of course, the Assassin 30 KIWF, and for the lance rules, we're going to be using, of course, the formation type rules from the new rulebook from the Clan Invasion starter set, and we're going to be making a command star with this. Now, the command star requires at least one of the mechs in the formation to be designated as the command unit, and 50% of the units must have sniper, missile boat, skirmisher, or juggernaut. One additional unit must be a brawler, striker, or a scout. Now, you could definitely get people to agree that this is either a scout or a striker, but even if not, I have included mechs which definitely should fill those roles for your lance. So the first mech I have here, other than the assassin, is we're going to be using the King Crab KGC 0000, which of course is the King Crab with the 2 autocannon 20s, the large laser, and the LRM-15. This is going to be your juggernaut, slowly walking up the field and making your opponent not want to turn around once that assassin gets behind them, because nobody wants to get a pair of autocannon 20s to the rear. Next, to help back him up with a second juggernaut, we have the 50-ton Hunchback Hbk 4G with another autocannon 20, 2 medium lasers, and a small laser. Again, really making it so your opponent doesn't want to turn around. Now, while your assassin is taking one flank and getting ready to jump in behind the enemy, I thought it might be nice to have a fast mech on the other flank. To round out the lance, we have the Wolfhound WLF-1A with its 3 medium lasers and its large laser and its running speed of 9. This is going to be a decent brawling mech, to kind of go around the other side and harass the other flank. So the idea here is you walk straight towards the enemy with the King Crab and the Hunchback. They get into range and they start opening fire with those autocannons. They run for the first turn or two and then start walking, using terrain to their advantage, but keep moving closer and closer to their enemy, threatening them with those autocannons and eventually with physical attacks, while the Wolfhound goes to one flank and the Assassin goes to the other. And when the Assassin gets close enough, now you will have the ability from the Command Star to be able to activate Combat Intuition, where you take a damage on your mech warrior to either be able to act before a particular mech on the field or after all the mechs activate, regardless of what the initiative roll was. This is awesome. Now, I suggest you do the first one, and the reason I do is because you can pick an enemy mech that you're planning on jumping behind. You're in position where you are 7 hexes away from behind that mech. What you're going to do is simple. You're going to say, I'm going to take the damage this turn, and I'm going to activate first. You jump behind him. Now, because of this, part of the ability is that that mech does not give you any of the extra difficulty to your shots based on movement because it hasn't moved yet this turn, which means they're going to be a sitting duck at your gunnery skill of 3. You're going to hit with the vast majority of those small lasers. Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. You're going to, like, in one turn, you're going to just jack in the box up here behind them and rip off all their rear armor. Just don't pick something with a crazy amount of rear armor, like, you know, like a awesome mech, which actually has a decent amount of rear armor. Pick something with a medium to low amount of rear armor and just really just tear it all off in one round. Now they're gonna be in a dilemma. I've got an enemy behind me. Do I want to turn around and shoot at them and offer my now empty rear armor to the guys behind me? Or am I going to keep going forward and just try to maneuver and get into a forest and see if I can protect myself that way? This could be really awesome. It definitely is a trick that is not a one-trick pony. Because of your ability to keep jumping around, you can keep harassing and hitting enemies in the rear armor like this all game, jumping back and forth between different mechs and ripping them apart. You're not going to want to do the ability too much because you're going to keep taking damage on your mech warrior, and that's going to be difficult to sustain more than once or twice. However, once you're in the position, you can just, like I say, just jump back and forth and keep unloading. Sometimes you will have to reduce your number of fire maybe to soak some heat, but otherwise, yeah, this is going to be a really fun and cool lance. Now, you will have a little bit of a disadvantage with your other mechs, being that if they get any ammo explosions, they're going to have a bit of a problem, but you are going to have a lot of firepower, even for the clan invasion time period, even using these Succession War era mechs. Because the battle value is fairly lower compared to their clan invasion counterparts. There's going to be a lot of firepower, and if you can overwhelm your opponent quickly with that firepower, then the damage due to those critical hits may not come into play. It's a gamble, but I think it could be a really fun lance to play. So there you have it. That is how I would redesign the Assassin and how I would use them. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Are there any versions of the Assassin that you have had great success with that you are a big fan of? Feel free to let me know in the comments down below. And let me know what mech should I cover in the next episode of Grokking Battletech. I'm planning on first covering all the mechs that were first introduced in the Succession War and Clan Invasion time periods before moving forward. So try to keep to suggestions from those time periods. Let me know in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this episode of Grokking Battletech and you'd like to see me do more like it, be sure to give it a like, share it on all forms of social media, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Board Game Captain. That's Captain spelled with a K on YouTube. And until next time, game on.